Stitch Cuties, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and in this video tutorial, we are going to make the adorable Santa Claus block, which is block 8 of your Christmas Lane block of the month. Let me show you how cute he is up close. This is a completed block. So what you're going to do is, of course, get your pattern out of your box, and you will begin, as always, at the beginning of the steps. Check that you have everything in your box. You're gonna get your background fabric ready, so it's ready to go. I've just lightly starched it and pressed it, and I have it setting aside because I don't need it just yet. Then we're going to number each applique piece and put it in order. So let me show you what I mean by put it in order. So the first applique unit we're gonna build contains pieces, 1 and then 10 through 13. So off to the side, all I do is put my pieces in order. So we have piece 1, and then 10, 11, 12, and 13. Okay, so I organize all my pieces. However, I also want to check and see if I need to do accent lines on any pieces, and I do this month. So as always in this pattern, when there are two pieces, when there's a light color, we'll give you 2 pieces so that it can be double lined. So on this block, what we're double lining is his face and his beard. However, there's also some accent lines on those 2 pieces. So we're gonna mark 1 of each piece. That's it, only 1 piece. So the other will go on top. So what I'm gonna do is take my placement guide, and I'm gonna use that with my light pad to mark those accent lines. So I'm gonna set the rest of my pattern aside. This is my completed sample block, so of course I'll set that aside. I'm just gonna turn on my light pad. I'm gonna move my fusing mat aside when I make my accent lines because it has like a little texture, and I don't wanna have like bumpity lines, right? Because we're making very precise little eyeballs and mouth line. So there's a variety of different pens you can use. You don't wanna use a friction pen because we're gonna be ironing it, right? So your accent lines would disappear. You can use a sew line chalk pencil, or you can use a Pigma pen. Because I'm gonna be stitching in black for his eyes and his mouth, and the Pigma pen to me is a really easy one. And I'm just gonna very lightly trace the 2 eyeballs. Super thin lines. I'm using the Micron 05, so it's 0.45 millimeters. I believe this is the smallest size. There might be a smaller size, but you also have to balance being able to still see it, right? So I'm gonna put that over with my pile. And then we're going to, on 1 piece of his beard, you put this in place on your placement guide, and you're simply going to trace his mouth. Now, you don't have to trace this. If you feel confident freehanding this stitching, like his eyeballs or his mouth, you can do so without tracing a line, right? There's no quilt police when you're doing this, so you can do it how you feel most comfortable. So now that we have those ready to go, we're gonna start building our applique units. So what I use when I'm building my applique units is what I call the perfect stack. So on the bottom, I have my light pad. On top of that, I have my glass mat, which allows me to iron my applique pieces while still having the light pad underneath. Then I'm gonna put my placement guide in place, and I'm gonna take my fusing mat, and I'm gonna put that right on top of my placement guide. And I love the fusing mat. We're on block 8 already, so I know you've been using this all year. I just love it. It's fantastic. So we're gonna start by building our first applique unit. Let me get my pattern so I can read the numbers to you and make sure I'm saying the correct thing. So marking the accent lines was step 4. Now we're on step 5. We're gonna build applique unit 1, which are pieces 1 and then 10 through 13. Now let's begin with that. So piece 1, because it's white, there are 2 of them. And so I've gone on and peeled the backing. They're identical. It doesn't matter which one you put down first. If there's one you like better, and you want that one to be on top, that's fine. But they're exactly the same. So I am going to put that right in place, and then put my second one on top. And I'm gonna give this a press. So I'm using my little Steam Fast travel iron. I love this guy. I use him a lot. He gets really dirty. It's fantastic though. Now we're gonna put pieces 10 and 11 down. So that's his left and right leg. Now you'll notice when you get your piece that we have it where it's, they're offset like this on your piece. That's so when you put them together, your stripes aren't exactly lined up. You don't want him to look like he has boring stripes. So it doesn't matter which direction you put it because we lasered it like that for you. So no direction on these. So first we're gonna put down number 10, and this does not touch the snow. What builds it as a unit is gonna actually be the boot and that yellow piece. And then we're gonna put down piece number 11, and they line up perfectly at the top and bottom, these two little legs. And I'm just gonna give them a press in the center. Now our little yellow square goes into place, and I am gonna peek through and make sure I turn my square the right way. If you'll notice, there's like a little jut out on the bottom right of your piece 12. That helps you get it right in place. There we go. And then finally what goes on top is our boot. And you want to make sure there's those 4 little rectangles in there. You just snip those free. And then this is the accent in his boots. And then the bottom of your boots line up exactly with the bottom of the snow. Now the bottom of this is going to be in your seam allowance. Remember that. So we'll give this a press for just a second. And there you go. You have your first applique unit ready to go. So now we'll go to step 6, and we are going to build pieces 2 through 9. So we're going to build our Christmas tree. So when I'm doing this, even though I put them in numerical order, to me, I like having the pattern out so I can see my little dots. So I'm going to have mine off to the side. So I'm just going to move my placement guide over a little bit so that I have room, because I don't want to iron it to this yet, right? We're building individual units. So we're going to start by putting our tree trunk in place. It's not a perfect rectangle. It does kind of have like a larger top. And again, this is all original art. So the way the project works is this is all original art by Amy Brucken that my mom, Julie, then adapts into working for Sewing Machine Appliqué and ultimately makes the pattern. So it's a really, really, really fun collaboration project. But all these lines that you get are the lines of Amy Brucken and Julie Love, as she has to every now and then, you know, change them a little bit to work for Appliqué. And so we're just gonna line this little guy up. Is this not the cutest fabric, by the way? This Lori Holt bead cross stitch is what it's called. It's like little cross stitches on it. So we have our tree in place. I'm not gonna bother ironing that just yet. I'm gonna put a few dots on, but we are gonna start with the bottom. We have our turquoise dot, bottom right, and it goes right up to the corner. And I am going to give this a press. There we go. I don't want to iron over my other applique unit, right? Because you don't want to overexpose that fusible. And now here, it is a little hard to see through my dark green. So I want to be real careful and get this into place just right. So am I there? Am I there? And you can, you know, these pieces are flexible. You can pick them up and all that. That's looking good. I'm gonna check on this side, make sure my curve. All right, there we go. I love it. Now, that's probably the trickiest piece of the whole block. Once you get that guy in, you're good. And if you don't get them perfect, you can always like adjust at the end, right? And then we'll go up here for the turquoise. There we go. And hopefully on the camera you're able to see through my piece. And then we have our yellow over here. Again, you want to make sure, because it's going to connect with another unit, that you get it just so. There we go. Because you want to make sure this piece goes under his arm. See how it is? That's tucking under his jacket, and the pink tucks under his little area right there. And then finally, we're going to go up here and put our red dot in place. And again, it goes all the way to that top point. That makes it really easy to put in place. So again, that top of that circle is going to be in your seam allowance. There we go. So we've built that unit. Now we are going to move to the next step. We are building Appliqué Unit 3, which are pieces 14 through 22. And you want to be mindful that we have 2 of pieces 19, 21, and 22. Alrighty, so here we go. Let's start building out Santa. So So again, I'm giving myself enough space to build this unit without overlapping on the others. Let me bring my little pieces closer to me. There we go. And the ones with the accent lines I have setting aside, so I make sure to put those on top of my other piece to double line. So there we go. That is number 14. So now we'll do 15, which is his left arm. Oh, I'm sorry, his left hand. Then 16 is the left arm. Let me pull that up just a little. Perfect. So I'm going to give those a press where they overlap. Now we're going to build his right arm. So the hand goes on first. There we go. And then piece number 18. So easy, isn't it? Now 19 is where we have a double lined piece. So we're going to put down the unmarked face first. Right here, like so. And then right above that, we're going to put that second piece that does have the lines marked where we know where to stitch his little eyeballs. Then we'll do the top of his hat, piece number 20, because he has a very fluffy beard. And this line's right up. This doesn't overlap with the face. They are exactly cut the same, so it's going to be really easy to put this in place. It lines right up there, but it does overlap onto the arm and part of his little body. So the only place I need to iron is right there right now. Now we're going to do his little beard. Get that in place. And with the beard, you want to make sure that it's overlapping. Need to go left just a little. See my line? And just gently go left. So you can see that it's covering the seam right here. It's going all over the red, all the way around. So I'm going to give this a little press to keep that in place. And now the one that is marked will go directly on top. And see how much that helps, especially when you get this completed as a quilt and you have batting underneath and it's quilted. Double lining when you're talking about a light piece like this really does help hide, especially when you have darker colors or a bold background. And then the next piece we'll put in place. We have two piece number 22s, and that is the cute little pom-pom dot. And I'm just laying down both at one time. Boop. Just like so. So now we're ready to put it on our background fabric. So what I'm gonna do, pull up Appliqué Unit 1. See how easy that comes off? I love it. Appliqué Unit number 2. And now our little Santa. He's still a little warm, so I'm gonna give him a little press right there. And then you can do the little wave, kind of cool him off, just like that, get a little airflow underneath him, and then you're just gonna gently, bloop, kind of bend your mat. And so if it's not sticking everywhere, I'm not gonna keep sticking it right there because it's staying together. It's gonna be fine when I put it on the fabric. So now we can move our fusing mat aside. So what I have now is my light pad with my glass mat only. And I'm going to take my background fabric and I'm going to plop it down. And just like every month, you have tons more fabric than you need, because where you're going to trim is this 8-inch outer trim line. And then this inner line is your 1/4-inch seam allowance so that you can see and identify what pieces are going to be caught in that seam allowance. So what we'll do first, Appliqué Unit number 1. Right in place. Let me pull him up a little. There we go. And let's give this a press. So I'm going to do just like a light pressing here, and then as always, I'll go to my fusing mat for that final press before I sew. Then we'll put Appliqué Unit number 2 down. And where you really care about it, you want to make sure it's coming into that seam allowance on the left top, and then of course lines up on the bottom. And then we have our Santa that we are going to put right in place. Oh my gosh, look how cute. So let's start giving this a good press. There we go. Awesome. And now, don't forget your cute little star that goes right there. Ooh, let me push him to the left. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'll turn my light pad off. I am going to take my Steady Betty and now I'm going to do my final pressing on my Steady Betty. So I'm just going to start at the top, work my way over. Doesn't matter, you can start at the bottom, work top to bottom, left to right. And I'm just giving this a really nice press for my sewing. There we go. So your little Santa is ready to sew. So let's talk about that sewing. As always in this block of the month, you have an outline of the order you're going to stitch everything. So you're going to start with the turquoise, and you're going to do your snow, your ornaments, your star, move on to your tree trunk with the dark brown. Then you have your medium dark avocado. So we're using that darker green in your thread kit for the gloves and in the parts of the tree that are exposed and, you know, not covered with an ornament. Then you're going to stitch the fun colors of the ornaments, do all of your red, of course, your white for your beard and his little pom-pom on his hat. And then finally went with black for his boots and then the accent lines. So let's take a look at what that looks like in real life on the one that I stitched. So you can see all of the stitching is the buttonhole stitch. It's all the exact same size everywhere. I didn't take my stitching down smaller anywhere. You know, sometimes if there's a smaller piece, say a narrow tree trunk or something like that, you need to take your stitch smaller so that it doesn't bite in too far, overlap the stitches. On this, everything is normal. However, we did have a little bit of fun right here on this one. And you can see we did a fun little stitch. I'm sorry, I don't know what that's called. I should have asked Julie before I filmed a tutorial what the stitch is called. But play with your machine and find a really fun decorative stitch. And basically it's just like a buttonhole stitch that's biting in onto the applique piece and out. And it just gives like that little fuzzy effect, if you will, on his little pom-pom of his hat. As always, when it comes to the block of the month, when you're stitching this, you can do whatever kind of stitch you want. Have fun with it. There are no quilt police. You can do a straight stitch throughout the whole project and it's going to be super, super cute. You can do the buttonhole stitch throughout it. You can play with all kinds of decorative stitches. Just the whole point is to have fun. So thank you so much. I hope this little tutorial helped you get your little Santa Claus block ready for stitching. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment on the video, or if it's something about customer service or anything with your account, reach out directly to our support team and they will be happy to help. And happy stitching!